Land Committee meeting. I want to welcome everybody here, our fire department there, and also Denny Collins, Mike Hughes, Josh Rogers, Daniel Beatty, and myself as and a non-exo member, Gary Davis, the mayor. And so anyway, the first thing on the agenda is approval of March the 25th, 2024 minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes as read.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, next on agenda is, next on our item is agenda items. And number A is a resolution authorizing Bradley County Mayor to execute a development and acquisition agreement with the City of Cleveland to exchange property located at 260 Inman Street for the city agreeing to construct a fire facility on property owned by the county located at 365 Minnis Road. And y'all have a copy of that in the front of you. So I'm going to turn that over to the mayor this time.
Oh, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know you don't want me to go back through all the history on this project, so I won't, but I'll just mainly answer questions. But what we do have, as I said the other day, a building that is pretty close to what we all wanted. Nothing's going to ever be perfect, but it's pretty close to what we all wanted. And the goal from day one was to get the best we could get and it not be any cost to Bradley County. And this is a lock and key, no cost to Bradley County project. It will give the fire department, rather than a very old building that has lots and lots of needs that I don't even want to talk about publicly unless I have to, it'll give them a building that would be a brand new building with 6 bays, same size training room, 7 offices, a bathroom, storage, less square footage than they have now, but a much better arranged building. And to back up a little bit, we originally looked at 3 locations that we own that we could possibly put it at, and this was the site that was pretty much agreed to by everyone else. So at a good location, I think that it's a no-brainer, but I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you all might have.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve it with discussion.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, may I talk to, or make a question or ask a question of the mayor? We've approved it, but what my question is, hopefully you can answer this. Over those offices, what kind of roof are they going to put, or ceiling are they going to put in? Is it going to be something, or is it going to be big enough that the port beams going to be big enough that we can go over it in future and build more
Yes,
offices?
it's my understanding that you could put a second floor up there in the future. What would be there now, when you say above it, would be a sheetrock ceiling, sheetrock walls, sheetrock ceiling, painted. But it is constructed in a way to put a second floor above that if you so choose, yes.
That's what I was curious about. I was wondering if they were going to put 2x10s or 2x12s above it to the, where
Well, it's a metal building, so I assume, I don't know that, there's drawings that's with this, but I assume those beams are metal or steel beams, but I could be, has anybody looked at that? I don't know that answer, but I think they probably are, because I think everything is steel.
All right, good. And the other question that I had was about the additional parking. Are we going to be able to do something in the future to make enough parking for?
Yeah,
everyone?
we're actually kind of working on that now. The projects would be simultaneous, and we'll probably, as I was telling somebody a few minutes ago, be through with the parking way before the building is finished, probably. They were out there today. Were any of you there? They were out there today looking at it. They're doing topos on it. They had to look at the sewer, the depth of the sewer, and those kinds of things. But what we're doing is working on getting an estimate so I can come back to you with that project in the near future. But the goal is to bring that hill down I don't know if it'll be flat with the existing or not because of that sewer depth, but it will be brought down, and then that will become a parking lot to the left. When you go in, that hill to the left will become a parking lot. And also that island right in front of you will be taken out and will add more parking. We will be doing that. My plan is, if it's approved by you all and we have good estimates, we'll be doing that this fall before winter. And then this project will be going on throughout the winter, of course.
And the last question I have, I swear.
That's all right.
It was brought, somebody asked me this question, I didn't have an answer for it, but I'm sure this is something you've already looked at and you'll know the answer to it.
Oh.
Well, I'm pretty sure that you will because it's too simple not. They had asked why it wasn't looked at as possibly moving it to the Peerless Road next to the cannery and all that. I said, I have no clue if we even thought about that, but I'm sure the mayor has.
You're talking about that unused
Yes.
where Troy looked at
Yes.
going. We didn't seriously look at that because of the terrain. We seriously looked at the health department site. In my mind, it became a no-brainer because of so much dirt had to be moved, and then it was taken away from growth for the health department. We seriously looked at Waterville, the infamous site now that you can't build on. It was determined that this third location was the best location. That one, the terrain is so bad, it would take a lot of work. I think Troy found that out when he was looking at it for his building. So I guess the simple answer to your question is we didn't seriously look at it, but it was considered.
Okay.
I think, and I can't speak for the chief, but I think they would rather be out closer to a bypass than in downtown traffic possibly too. Is that?
And like I say, I wouldn't, to me, it's, doesn't mean one way or the other, but I said I'd ask, and that's what I was doing, just keep my word.
Whenever Troy was looking at it, it fit better for him because you don't have the amount of fire trucks and stuff going in and out for his project. But even in his case, that was one of the things that made that project, building a new building there, cost prohibitive.
I understand.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mayor, broadly speaking, the development and acquisition agreement allows you to do what exactly? We've talked about this before, but just
The agreement itself will spell out in details what these drawings have showed you and what I've said to you. And it tells them that it's a go-ahead project. They will have to go through a bid process and so forth themselves, but and the timeline on this, if this is approved today and Monday, then the following Monday, the city council addresses it. There's hopefully, if they're watching, hopefully they're okay with the project. So they will approve it then, and that sets the clock running. The agreement will say, I think I was asked this the other day, it will say a year from that date. It said a year from a June date, but I didn't get it done for that, so it'll say a year from that date, which will probably be a year from July 23rd, roughly. But anyway, it starts the ball rolling with them bidding and going through that. I think they will probably do most of the dirt work in-house and that kind of stuff, but there'll be that and getting the pad built before winter, and then then a company will come in and erect the building and so forth. But that thing that you agree, if you agree to it, gives me the authority to sign and start to go ahead.
but even if you sign, that ultimately comes back to the full commission, correct?
No, that's not the intent this time. The last time that was what you all said. This time it has come back to you. So we're asking now to let me sign it. Once I sign it, it authorizes me to sign it if you approve it. And once I sign it, then it's a deal for them to approve and start on.
Gotcha.
Remember the last time you all, when you took it off the table, you came back and you said, proceed with the proposal, but bring the proposal back. And I said, well, I would have to bring it back to get authorization to sign it. Well, now I'm bringing it back with the authorization and that thing.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Mayor, I know in our meeting on Monday, we spoke about the road frontage out front, about the city taking that road in. I know that there's been more discussions about that. We had talked about possibly putting it in this proposal to continue those conversations or not. I just would like to encourage, because I think that part of that front of that road, I mean, if the city is going to annex this, then that needs to be something that the road is now taken care of by the city, and would just like to encourage those conversations along more.
And the discussions will continue for sure. I've already brought it up. I wasn't, and I don't want to say too much because they would have to agree to it over
Sure.
there. It's not in what they've already agreed to, but they didn't shut the discussion down. My intentions are, if you approve this project, I would be requesting, now I need you to do this. The commission wants you to do this. Or at some point, you all vote separately from this, hopefully, to ask them to do that if you want to.
Yes.
I think the discussions definitely can be had, and I've opened the door already. I felt good that they didn't shut the door, but I don't have an agreement to that effect either.
Totally.
And I assume you would be talking about, or they would be considering power line to 64.
Yes.
That's the section that,
Excuse my language. Excuse me, my frog.
well, you do, don't
Got a
you?
head
What's wrong with you?
cold.
I'm not making fun of you. You sounded funny at first.
Couple of questions, Mayor. I remember at the last meeting over at the fire hall on Minnis Road, I think we agreed, I may have to go back and get more Lord to look at the minutes, but I was thinking we had Miss Peak agreed that she would supervise, or not supervise, but go over the plans with you and everything. Has she been able to do any of that?
Yeah, she's been involved with the discussions a lot, and a lot of it has actually come from her, through her, whatever. For example, and I'll bring up something you hadn't asked me today, is the insulation. The answer, the correct legal answer to that, and I think she's the one that brought that up originally, is it will be built per city codes, which does require insulation. I don't have somebody said what kind. I don't know if it's spray or the other, but it will be built by code, which does require that. And so a lot of those discussions, the main thing I've asked her to do recently, of course, a lot of you, I won't forget what you asked, but a lot of you had concerns about the trucks that day, if you recall. And that's why this building will be, it'll slope down somewhat to the building, and it'll be closer to road grade. There'll still be a rise, but it won't be like the crazy rise that's there in front of the station now. It'll be more grade level so that trucks, the ladder truck, is that what it's called, will be able to get in and out. So getting in and out shouldn't be a problem at all. That bank at the back will be brought down to match what's already there, and then give the parking area back there. But what I asked her to do is I said, can you give me a ballpark figure or an answer to what it's going to cost to stay where we're at? And of course, it's hard to get true estimates unless you really have a project going, and even then it's hard these days. But I said, you know that building better than any other contractor. What do you think it would be? And she said, considering the structural integrity of the building, talking about the bay wall and things like that, considering the tunnel underneath, some people call it a sinkhole in the parking lot. It's really a tunnel caved in. That's a tremendous issue for a fire department, in my opinion. Heavy trucks. That's why we had to pay concrete a lot of the parking lot. But anyway, based on all that, a new roof, which I think they will argue is definitely needed, and some other interior upgrades. She estimated that building to cost at least $800,000 to do all that. That's the main thing I've asked her about. But she's known about all these other things too, as far as the grade to the building, the back. She's also the one that's working with getting an estimate on bringing that hill down. So she's been involved in it a lot. I hope that sort of answers your question. And any concerns that she's had, I've tried to address them too.
Second question is, you normally hire somebody to build a building for you. There's a warranty on the building for a year or 2 years.
Right.
Are we going to have a warranty? In other words, if the building is built and we move in lock and key, and say a wall, just an example, a wall falls down,
There will
who would fix that?
the way they answered me on that is the company that builds the building will provide a warranty. They weren't for sure how long it was, but I think the law requires a minimum of a year. So it's a year. Sometimes it's 4 and 5 years, but I don't want to say it'll be a 5-year warranty, but there is a warranty. And then the subs that put in, for example, the HVAC and all those things, they will be required to provide us the warranty on that, just as if we're the owner of the project, they're working with for them, but they will provide those warranties at that time. For example, HVAC, it's 1 year parts and labor, and usually it's 10 years on the compressor. So those normal warranties will get passed to us, yes, just as if we had subbed it out.
I think you already answered my question. However, we'll say that in my figures, or the way I'm looking at it, and I may be wrong, trust me on this, if we was to go above in the future, go above those offices, we should have pretty close to what we have now in square footage. So it is a future growth plan.
It is future growth, and I've been told that would put the square footage at the same. I assume that would be small equipment that could be carried up steps, so it wouldn't, help with the big equipment, but it would be more storage. And they did something from memory, didn't you all do something like that where you're at now as far as getting where the office is? Aren't you in the attic really, and you made an office out of it or something like that? From memory, I think that building, but this would be, what I foresee is, if it's steel beams, and I think they will be, then all you would do is floor that above the training room and put a staircase up there. All of that would be doable. I wouldn't plan on doing it day one, but it would be something for the future, yes, future growth, if you want to call it that. We looked at another building. I don't think this chief did. I think it's previous chief. And we've looked at several buildings, by the way. We've done our due diligence a million times on this, but we looked at one building that had the bays, the area for bays. They were going to have to put the 6 doors in, but the space was there. But it had very, very little storage. It had some, but very little. But it was already floored up there. And so I perceive this being like that. That second, it was just floored with plywood, which is what you would want. And they already had the steps going up. But it didn't have the bays, and it was an existing building. But that one fell through. It was another Whirlpool building. But I see it being something like that if that was the decision down the road to do that.
Which I believe most of the people that I've asked or talked to here, the first question comes out is, well, what does the fire department feel about it? And I'll be honest with you, I've already spoke with Chief once. He's optimistic that it'll work, but you can hear it from himself. Yeah, Chief, if you don't mind.
You like to get up and speak to us there? Okay.
Hear me now? All right, now what's your question?
I think most of the commissioners are going to want to know your view on the building. I know I've spoken to you and you're fairly positive about it, but at least let this commission or this committee know how you feel. And if there's anything that, I know the things I brought up, like the ceiling going over, that was the stuff for me.
Yeah.
If there was something that you may, as a wish list, to say.
Yeah, as far as for me, I think we can do the building. It's we understand what's wrong down here on Inman Street, and I understand that. And I understand it goes through 3/4 of the building, some of the problems, and it seems like it's getting a little bit worse as it goes. So, not opposed to going to Minnis Road in the building. My only concern before, and I think Mayor kind of answered it just a few minutes ago, was the parking. So, we were just concerned with parking because of training, because the ball field we couldn't. We realized we walked across. Well, I don't know if we can do the ball field because the asphalt's only about 2 inches thick, and those trucks are about 50,000 pounds with water. So that was some concern where we're going to do it. But he kind of answered it. If we get that lower section and that midsection in the back, it'd be a huge help. So,
if I could jump in and add to that, like I've said things so many times, I don't know what I'm repeating, but parking is needed now. Once we put ambulance out there, that added another 2 or 3 employees parking there. And now we're going to move the training center there. So when they have training, and it could be fire training or it could be ambulance training. How many people's there when you have that? A bunch, right?
Yeah.
And they're all going to have all these vehicles. So the parking was already needed because it's full out there now. And then Howard mentioned, I hadn't really thought of it this way, whenever it's a storm room and all of our employees are at work, and we're using all the parking, there's not hardly any parking for the storm people that come there, and people do come. So that parking is needed now and definitely will be needed with this project. So that's why we're moving forward with the parking. Uh, and it will be finished, I'm sure, way before the building is really. So that'll be a good thing because they need it now. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted
No,
to.
that's, the parking was one of my main issues.
Did-
No, sir, unless you got any more questions. Thank you.
Chairman, one final question. I had a couple phone calls this week, Mayor, when I guess we got into the topic of the annexation of the property, right? The Cleveland, City of Cleveland's building it, City of Cleveland's annexing it. But once this is said and done, it just grants here, right? Bradley County will own this building. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, the building that we're in now is in the city, so that won't be anything any different. But I will, and I may have said this Monday also, I held this last proposal up for a while because I argued with the city. I did not want to have annexation in there, and they said, why? And I said, because I don't want to have to face Howard and all those people that hate annexation. But the more it was discussed, there is no negative to being annexed. It does lower your rates. Your water and sewer will go down. They don't use that much, so that's probably not a big deal, but the rates will go down. I think they're roughly 50%. But the biggest thing about it was the sewer connection, because you can't do a sewer tap outside the city. I mean, I'm sorry, agree or not agree, that's just not allowed. So we were gonna have to go around, and I didn't get an estimate on this, but I've got enough sense to know it's gonna be very costly. We were gonna have to go around the building to the existing sewer tap. But by annexing, they'll put a sewer tap there, I assume, right in front of the building, and they will run the sewer down, hook into that sewer tap. So again, no cost. That alone made it okay. If I can get Howard Thompson over the word annexation, there's no negatives to it other than the word, honestly.
and I would venture to say if it's going to be annexed in the city, that would be Cleveland Utilities. That would be providing, obviously, the
Yeah,
sewer
it's
and
Cleveland
electrical. So that would
Utilities.
also provide us with their new internet, high-speed internet out there.
Once it's provided, yes. You'll have better, cheaper internet's what he's replying to there. I assume at some point, yes.
And ultimately, Mayor, it may not be perfect, right? But would you say this is going to be a project, that new facility for our fire, at no cost to our county taxpayers, which is a big deal?
That's the key. And I've never wanted to say as much as I have today about the existing building, because, when you're negotiating with somebody, you don't want to knock what your bargaining chip is. But folks, we will be better than we ever know when we get away from that place, especially for a fire department. I'm not saying it would be that way for offices. I don't know what anybody's going to do with it, but it's not a place for a fire station with a tunnel under the building.
Yeah.
I mean, that alone. So we're getting away from a problem that is going to be very costly for a fire station or a fire building, and we're getting a new, little bit smaller, but new building at no cost to the taxpayers. As a commissioner, you've got this perfect story to tell, in my opinion.
Any more questions for the mayor? One thing that I wanted to add, I did ask, and I thought it was appropriate. I was with the road superintendent yesterday, and I asked him about the annexation of that road there, and he said he didn't have a bit of problem with it if they wanted to annex it. So anyway, that's just something I want to pass on to you.
You, again, either Monday or at your next meeting, you don't have to be that quick with it. They won't move today or tomorrow with the annexation, by the way, but before they start building it, they will. I will continue the discussions, but you're welcome if you want to, if it makes you feel good at some point. Just don't mix it with this. If you want to have a motion that officially requests it, you can do that. Either way, I'm going to continue to talk with them about it, and hopefully we'll be able to work that out. But we need to approve the project first, in my opinion. And that, it's already been annexed on that side of the road anyway, all back behind us. They're coming in now on Ben Moore's property down there toward Jackie Evans. we got a good discussion about it should be annexed. Can't swear that they will agree to it, but again, they didn't shut the door on it.
Any more questions? Okay. Do we need a motion on this from this committee?
Are we voting fast?
Uh,
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do.
about this resolution, to send this resolution on? Okay.
What to say?
Yeah.
No. No problem. Do we need to vote on that? Lori? Already hit, okay.
Everybody's comfortable that the motion is to recommend the resolution?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Can I ask a question about the road annexation
Uh-huh.
and requesting that that happens or whatever? How would we need to go about just putting that on a work session, then put it for a voting session, or request it from here, or from
Yeah,
the
I
road
would
department?
request you come back at your next work session and get it on the agenda as a request of the city. That would make it official if you want to do it that way.
Thanks.
It won't be a surprise to them because I have discussed it.
Hey.
Mr. Chairman, if I may ask a question, hang on a
We don't
second
need a
before I do
motion
that.
first. We're gonna discuss it first, and then we'll do a motion.
Yeah. I heard you talk the other night at the meeting, and honestly, it made more sense than anything I've heard yet as far as if it's truly swampland. I hate to say that, or if it has a lot of water on it, but you had brought up at one point the fire department using it as a training ground for their fire training. I don't know, that actually sounds like a really good idea. I don't know if the mayor's thought of that or if even the chief has thought of that.
Swift water rescue training.
Yeah, whatever we need.
Did you pick up on that, Chief?
Yeah,
Swift
yeah.
water rescue at land that's covered in water.
Chief, is that something you would, if it was still open for training, is that something that you'd be interested in, or is it?
That piece of property, we've been kind of mentioning that over my 20 years here. I mean, we're open to it. I mean, anything that, I mean, it's spacious down there, but it is, we've done classes down in that field over the years. I'd say probably 15 years ago, we did a trench class that it filled with water all the way to the rim. We couldn't even hardly do the class, but that was more back this way towards the school's pumping station. But I'm not opposed to it. It's the first I've kind of heard it in a while. So
Okay. I think there was an upper area that,
we're out on the road now. So I mean,
like I said, I hadn't even discussed this with the mayor. I just heard you bring it up, and I was like, golly, that actually makes sense.
Well, they put their training, whatever you call those things, up toward the highway because it was not only higher, but it was already, I guess you would say, it's where the building and parking lot of the school was at. So it was, but they've always had that as an expansion area. But I want to stop and just say this because I know it's already been said by a certain person that Gary's now trying to sell it again. Please understand, the resolution on my desk is you authorized it to be declared surplus and you authorized me to sell it. We got 2 bids. The first one came back and turned it down, so it's still an open thing. Do you want to sell it to the second bid? And that's all I'm merely asking. I'm not trying to sell it again. You've already given me the authority to sell it, but I didn't know if you wanted to go to the second bidder or if you wanted to rebid it or if you wanted to. I think you would need to probably rescind the previous declaring it surplus and selling it because that's out there. That's going to always be in the records if you don't. But that's all I'm trying to do is clean up where we're at. We can't just stop where we're at now.
Mr. Hughes?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, and Mayor, if I may ask, is that something that you would think about if it wasn't surplus property? Would you think of possibly future growth?
As far as I'm
future-
concerned, they can expand their training thing to it now. Don't think that we can probably build buildings down through there, but they can put whatever they need for training things in that area. It has grown up in recent years, but they could always be cleared off. So yeah, I mean, if there's a need there, I have no problem with it, especially if you declare it, if you change it and rescind declaring it surplus and selling it, then it's no longer going to be available to sell. So yeah.
So you'd need a motion rescinding the
Yeah,
motion is, how would that be worded?
a motion to rescind the previous resolution that authorized me, that declared it surplus and authorized me to sell it. You would need to rescind that.
Well, I'm going to take and just say what he said, and I'll put that in the form of motion. Basically to rescind
And then
that.
Lori can put the resolution numbers with that, because you understand what I'm saying. You've done that, and now if you no longer want to do it, you need to rescind that.
In my judgment, it just makes sense.
Second.
Well,
Favor?
we,
Hold on a second. Oh, Mayor, did you have?
go ahead and bid. Go ahead and vote, and I'll get. What Adam was mentioning, you accepted the highest and best bid, and they have now rescinded their offer. So as far as I'm concerned, that's over. We never accepted the second bid. I'm asking you if you want to, but with this motion, you don't want to. But he is asking, is that bid, are you going to take my bid since I'm next in line? And that's why I need an answer to say, no, they've decided not to sell it, if that's your decision.
So this motion would still
Yeah,
do what you need?
your motion would take care
Okay.
of all that.
Okay, so-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Moultrie, can I confirm that this motion that Commissioner Hughes made also makes the property not surplus anymore, deems the property not surplus anymore?
Located on New Street, of which is known as the Old Waterville Elementary School property on Dalton Pike, map and parcel number 074HC003.00 as surplus property, and authorizing the county mayor to offer for sale a portion of this property by public bid.
So you're rescinding
my
that.
assumption is you rescind this so that it's no longer offered.
So it would no longer be considered surplus property.
Right. That
Can
was
I-
all in one resolution back then.
Does there need to be anything in this motion to allow it to be used by the fire department, or is that something to do?
There's nothing to prevent it. I mean, they're already located there, so if it's not surplused, we could use it, yes.
Okay.
It might be, just to be safe, I would probably include something in your motion that would allow the mayor or the county attorney to just clean up that open bid issue. My concern would be you make a motion to rescind, but I think Crystal would probably say you've got an open bid that we would probably need to go to. So if you could also maybe make in your motion
To close that bid?
to reject
The
any
second,
open bids and rescind, so make it a dual motion. Reject all bids and rescind the surplus
That
of the
makes
property.
sense, actually. I like that. So we'll just add that to the front of it, just reject all bids and.
She may say that's
rescind
not
the-
necessary, but that way it saves you from coming back and having to do a
It's
separate
covered
vote.
by doing that. Is that okay with my second, to add that?
All good.
Thank you.
And fire department.
For the first and second.
Aye.
It's a mouthful, isn't it?
Okay.
you're rescinding the resolution in front of you and also the sentence about the bid.
Rejecting the bids.
Okay. Any more discussion on that? If not, other business, communication from the audience, chairperson will recognize anyone in 5 minutes. Anybody like to speak? Okay.
the committee to discuss the disc golf course out there. And I would like the committee to look at naming that the Howard Thompson Disc Golf Course and put a nice big sign out there referencing that.
Mr.
Thank you.
Chairman, I would like to make a motion that we do name the disc golf course the Howard Thompson Disc Golf Course.
I'll actually second that.
You want another disc golf course out on part of it and use part of it for fire?
We've got a motion and a
Yeah,
second. We're looking for
We're
a
just
vote.
waiting for a vote. All in.
Aye.
And Howard, I've already told people, the most anybody has ever gotten on to me about a project was when you got on to me about disc golf, and now we're teaming it after Howard Thompson. Tell me that's not an ironic twist. I left that night so frustrated, I didn't know what to do. I want to say thank you. I appreciate it. I've never had a proposal that took so long to get to this point. Hopefully it'll pass Monday, and then I'll have another year of hell of getting it built, but that's okay. But I was looking at the dates of my first estimates on building this building, because first I was discussing with the city how much you've got to give me enough to build a building. Well, go get estimates. I got estimates 2.5 years ago, and they were way, way more than I was ever going to get out of the building. That's why we went a different course. So it's been a very long project. I will definitely be happy as heck to see phase 1 behind me come Monday. And then we'll start the building project, and it won't be easy, but heck, we built a $16 million jail on time and under budget, and it had a lot of hurdles, but we'll get there.
We're adjourned.